Warning: this video includes spoilers for the Make Your Mark special and the Discord comics, as well as major spoilers for Sombra Story and the Siege of the Crystal Empire comics. Hello everybody, I am Lightning Stripe, and today it's time to finally unmask the mysterious Alicorn from the Make Your Mark special. Last time, we explored the possibility that the Alicorn is someone new, and for those who need a quick recap, one of the possibilities was that she's Florihat's daughter, seeing as both Alicorns have similar colors, and the mystery Alicorn is referred to as Shadow or Shadowy Alicorn in the credits, leading many to think that she has a connection to Sombra. We also talked a little about the Discord comics, and how Discord explains that a mysterious unicorn appeared long ago and began to spread ideas about certain tribes being better, which caused things to quote-unquote escalate, and the main six created the Unity Crystals. All good? Caught up? Great. Now let's dive into another possibility, one that I find a lot more exciting, as you can probably tell seeing as this video is currently my longest one. So, last time when we talked about the Discord comics, I left you guys in a bit of a cliffhanger, saying that they might not be canon. Just for simplicity, let's ignore that and base our theories on everything else, then take a step back later and check to see if it matches the comics or not. Going back, let's now assume that the Alicorn is some pony from G4. Let's take a step back and redo things. If it is some pony we know, it helps us narrow down the options. There's only 5 Alicorn princesses in Equestria: Twilight, Celestia, Luna, Cadence, and Flurry. We can knock out Luna right out of the bat, see what I did there? They just look way too different to be the same pony. I could never imagine the Princess of the Night ever putting on makeup like that. It's certainly not her. However, I do think that they may have something in common. If this is indeed a princess from G4, then the only way I can think for this to happen is for them to have become corrupted like Luna was when she became Nightmare Moon. We can also knock out Twilight because, like I stated in my second to last video, Twilight would be already gone since she can't outlive her friends. Now, I know a lot of you want to see her again, but at the end of the day, she's gone and she's not gonna show up again unless it's for a cameo, Easter egg, or flashback. That leaves us with 3 contestants, all likely to be the culprit. Celestia used to be bright pink at a young age, Cadence is pink, and so is Flurry. We can take Celestia out of the list, since you already know what her corrupted form is: Daybreaker. Sure, she may not be real, but that's what Celestia would look like if she was corrupted. And this is not Daybreaker. That leaves us with Cadence and Flurry. They're both pink, and neither of them have a canon corrupted form for us to compare them against. You see, we don't know much about Flurry since we only see her as a filly, but we do know a lot about her mother, Cadence. And that's enough for me to be able to plan out her steps based on how she would feel and where her emotions would lead her. If Cadence did indeed get corrupted, it would have to have been for some reason. The question is, what? Daybreaker and Nightmare Moon both had similar sources: jealousy. So who would Cadence, the Princess of Love herself, be jealous of? Well, who better than the Princess of Friendship? Yes, I believe that if Cadence did indeed become corrupted, it would be because she was jealous of Twilight. Jealous of what? My best guess would be Shining. How this would play out, I'm not really sure, since Twilight would be gone early in the 2000 years. So maybe she was jealous of her impact? I also found a picture of a Cadence toy where she has a much more similar color palette to the new Alicorn. Flurry, on the other hand, doesn't give us much to work with, but what she misses out in info, she makes up for with her lifespan. You see, we know it's been 2000 years since G4 ended, and while we don't know exactly how old Cadence is, Flurry has the highest chance of being alive in New Equestria, at least out of the Alicorns. We also don't see much of how she grows up, aside from that stained glass pane during the last problem, so we don't have much to work with in terms of our emotions either, which is what I usually focus on. So, if the Alicorn is someone new, it's most likely someone related to Flurry in some way, and if the Alicorn is someone we know, from least to most possible, the names are Twilight, Celestia, Luna, Cadence, and Flurry. But what if the pony is someone other than a princess? I mean, new Alicorns could have risen during that 2000-year period. Well, in that case, here are some ideas that fit the color palette we see in the new Alicorn: reformed equalist Starlight Glimmer, amateur student of friendship Luster Dawn, young mastermind Cozy Glow, and a mysterious future-seeing unicorn Radiant Hope. More on her later. All of these characters have one thing in common. Well, aside from them all being unicorns. They're all pink. This is important because it needs to match the colors we see in the new Alicorn. So first thing I'm gonna do is take Starlight off the list. Much like all of you, I don't believe she'd ever want to do something like we see the Shadow Alicorn do. She's the awkward, relatable character we've all grown to know and love. We've watched her grow from a full equalist to counselor and finally to the head of a school. I don't believe she'd have any reason to become villain once again. As for the Alicorns, I honestly don't think she'd want them. We see after Chrysalis' second attack that she's not ready to leave Twilight. And now, after Twilight left for Canterlot, it seems she finally found a place as the head mayor of the School of Friendship. So that leaves her out of the list. Second pink unicorn to look at is Luster Dawn. Much like with Flurry, we don't have much to work with when it comes to Twilight's apprentice. We see that she had a hard time learning friendship at first, so maybe she never properly learned her lesson and turned evil? I highly doubt it, not because that's unlikely, but because if she did, she wouldn't be an Alicorn. But now we get on to the good part, Cozy Glow. From what other bronies tell me, some fans have been mentioning how the new Alicorn may be cozy, and there's a lot of evidence to back it up. First, the color palette. Both Cozy and the Shadow Alicorn have pink coats as well as light-colored manes with swirls. Now you're probably thinking, oh but it can't be Cozy, she's stuck in stone. But that's where things get weird, because it's time to move into comic territory. You see, in the IDW Season 10 Comics, issue 102, at the very end, we get an extra scene. In this little scene, it appears that the stone around Chrysalis is cracking, and a pony is sitting next to her saying, "She's early." Now, we never actually see them expand on that, so all we have are speculations. Beautiful, amazing speculations. So, if Chrysalis began cracking out of her stone prison, then Cozy Glow could too, and if she did, she would be bent on revenge. However, unlike the ex-queen, she would take her time. If she somehow got a hold of the bell again, she'd be unstoppable. Partly because she'd planned for everything. Being an Alicorn again, she'd be able to live much longer than normal, and possibly be able to live up to the Make Your Mark special. This would go similarly to my Flurry's daughter idea, both of her taking the bell, allowing Argyle to find it later, and in her plan. We saw how she divided the tribes once, and she'd likely try to do it again. Just like Flurry's daughter, she would fail and cause the end of magic, including hers. Because of this, she would be unable to do anything, even as an Alicorn. Her character also fits with what we saw the Shadow Alicorn say in the special.
And now that they have, it's time to take back what is mine!
She once had Equestria at her host, and now it's time for a rematch. If you think that's good, wait until I introduce you to Radiant Hope. She's a character from the IDW Comics Fiendship is Magic issue 1, Sombra's story, and shows up from issues 34 to 37. With that said, I would like to thank a good friend of mine, Doc Anubis, for helping me get all of this information. If you don't know who he is, he's the go-to Pegasus for anything and everything comic related, and his channel link is down below in the description. Anyways, back to Hope. If you don't know who she is, I don't blame you, I didn't either until a few weeks ago. Basically, she's a childhood friend of Sombra's before it became all evil. One day, they decided to go look at the Crystal Heart, which was said to show a pony's destiny through its reflection. Hope saw herself as a princess, and Sombra saw himself as a monster. Some years later, she was with Sombra in the hospital when something happened and he began to disappear. Hope saw this and knew she had to do something and healed him. This caused her to gain her cutie mark. A few days later, she received a letter from Celestia asking her to go study in her school. Sombra saw this as a sign that the heart was right and ran away, trying to escape his own destiny. Instead, he ran towards it and found the door to the Umbrum, his people, or shadow spirits in this case. And you can guess the rest. He learns the true story, attempts to free them, fails, and gets locked away by Celestia, but not before causing the Crystal Empire into disappearing. However, Hope never lost, hope that Sombra was good, and left Celestia's school in search of her own friend. During her travels, she stumbles into the door of the Umbrum, who take the form of fairies and trick her into believing that they're good. A little more than 1,000 years later, Hope leaves the Umbrum in search of Sombra, and she finds him as a shadow. Still believing that he can turn, he uses her healing magic to bring him back. Long story short, he attacks the Crystal Empire again, because that's his whole thing, with the help of Chrysalis, Flim and Flam, Iron Will, and Lightning Dust. Cadence goes with Hope to meet the Umbrum, but accidentally reveals their true nature to Hope. They both return to the Crystal Empire, get captured along with Twilight and Shining, while the rest of the main six escape, and Sombra frees the Umbrum. Then, like any heroic story, Hope teaches Sombra that the ponies can make their own destinies, and shows this through the fact that she never became a princess. He understands, and returns the Crystal Heart to its post, banishing the Umbrum to their prison. That's a short version of what happened, but if you're interested, you should check out the comic yourself, it's down below in the description. So, how does this new unicorn fit into the G5 storyline? Well, first, they both have very similar color palettes. Not to mention, Hope saw herself as a princess through the Crystal Heart, so this does seem to be the most likely possibility. However, there's just one catch. The comics aren't exactly canon. You see, at the end of the attack, Sombra is reformed and given another chance. This doesn't fit with what we saw in the G4 series. At first, I thought maybe it happened after Twilight's coronation, but if that's true, Chrysalis and the Changelings wouldn't be there. This is why I usually stay out of the comics. Don't get me wrong, they're very fun, but they don't follow the same timeline as the one we see in G4. So where does this leave us? Well, the only possibility I can think of is that Hope found another way to free Sombra without the help of the X-Queen. It's true, this could all happen after she escapes from Stone, but there still wouldn't be any unreformed changelings to help her. Another idea is that she failed to bring back Sombra and became evil? Or maybe something happened to Sombra causing her to become corrupted. Another problem I have with this idea is that the whole lesson of the comic is that you can choose your own destiny, and I don't think Hope would try to become an Alicorn based on what we saw of her. However, if she did get corrupted somehow, then it might work, and the name Shadow Alicorn fits her well, considering where she came from. So currently, we have narrowed the choices down to 3. Flurry at the bottom, followed by Radiant Hope, and then Cozy. But what if it's not a pony at all? What if it's someone else? Someone who tried to take over Equestria twice and failed both times. Someone who nearly had Equestria at her hooves. Someone like X-Queen Chrysalis. Oh, don't you even start Discord, you already got way too much attention from me. You got a whole video by yourself, took control of my Discord server, and I spent an entire month trying to play your song on the piano. Not to mention you're already gonna show up in 2 videos I haven't even finished yet. You may be a possibility, but I highly doubt it since you already got your own spotlight in the comics, which just messes everything up even more. Plus, I really don't want to deal with chaos magic right now, okay? So shoot, go, move, out. Anyways, as I was saying, X-Queen Chrysalis could just be the one we're looking for. We saw that she started to free herself from Stone at the end of issue 102, so it is possible. But you're probably about to ask, how can she possibly be alive 2000 years later during G5? Well, allow me to explain to you the complicated topic of changing lifespans. You see, according to issue 36, when Sombra mentions the Umbrum, Chrysalis says, I may look young and beautiful, but I have been around longer than either of you. Considering that when Sombra was banished, Luna was already imprisoned in the moon, this puts her around 1000 years old. However, when you look at what she says next, she's even older. She said she went to the Crystal Empire long ago and found it ruled by Umbrum, who burned the homes of the Crystal Ponies. This makes her older than Princess Amora, older than the Crystal Heart. Heck, combine the fact that Starsorg accidentally created her, and that makes her nearly 2000 years old. That's older than Celestia. No wonder she looks like that. So, if she's already 2000 years old, the chances are high for her to live another 2000, especially if she spends a few of those years in Stone. And think about it, an Alicorn is a perfect cover for this new world. She could easily trick the ponies into following her by pretending to be what they've always looked for, an Alicorn princess. She did it before, she can definitely do it again. And not only that, we saw her use what I call communication beetles to see and talk with her scouts during her second attack on Equestria, and she could be using similar and maybe even upgraded technology to spy on Maritime Bay, just like we see the Shadow Alicorn do at the end of the Make Your Mark special. And before you bring the Discord comics against me, in the last issue of the Season 10 comics, we see none other than the X-Queen herself escaping from Stone. If this does indeed happen, then she could have taken the form of a unicorn and tried to break the ponies from the inside out. Maybe she's the pony Discord was talking about, but none of them knew it was truly her. After the crystals are created, she'd probably try again, but maybe this time, she succeeded in separating the tribes. But not before some pony manages to separate the crystals, causing magic to disappear. Her plan would also backfire as the amount of love in Equestria would diminish with every pony now blaming each other for the disappearance of magic. And no matter what form she took, she wouldn't be able to bring all the tribes under her own leadership. At least, not while the crystals are divided. And who better than to fix that than a certain group of short, pastel-colored horses? So, ladies and gentlecoats, I think we got it. We've explored every example, every possibility, and every angle I could come up with. But at the end of the day, I think the mystery Shadow Alicorn is none other than the X-Queen herself, Chrysalis. She fits the bill to a T. She has the lifespan, reason, and as a changeling, matches any color palette in Equestria. If this Alicorn is someone they know, I'm convinced it's X-Queen Chrysalis. Now, for those who've stayed with me this far, here's a little bonus. We may not be able to figure out who that unicorn next to the throne is, but I can work my magic and try to tell what is going on through her head based on what we saw in her 7 seconds of screen time. So, I've been doing this for a long time, so see if you can keep up with me. This unicorn has to be working for the Alicorn, who we just said is the X-Queen Chrysalis. An unreformed changeling is out of the question, since there are none left in Equestria, and they can't simply unreform. So this has to be a unicorn from Bridalwood. However, this couldn't be someone the Alicorn knew from her past, because that was 2000 years ago. So this has to be someone new. Knowing the X-Queen, she most likely tricked the unicorn into following her. However, I think there's more to this. You see, if she was tricked into believing the Alicorn, her facial expression would be a lot more different than what we see. For comparison, let's look at Tempest's shadow. Tempest was tricked into working for the Storm King. Looking at her, we can tell she looks menacing, scary, but most of all, she's serious, because it's what she believes in. Now look at the Unicorn. This is not the face of someone who's serious. It's the face of someone who's scared, but trying to hide it. Someone who's stuck working for someone they don't like. And most of all, this is the face of someone who regrets. Someone who's thinking, what have I done? With this in mind, I believe she met the Alicorn once and was awed by her and decided to work with her, seeing as she was probably related to the ancient Alicorn princesses. The Alicorn probably used her as a scout to better learn what went on in Equestria, but now that it's time to put her plan into motion, the Unicorn might start having second thoughts. I believe this Unicorn will attempt to reach out to the ponies, most likely to no avail, and will pretend to side with the Alicorn until she gets a better chance. And she'll most likely help the main five if or when they find themselves in the Shadow Alicorn's lair. But what do you think? Is this truly the X-Changeling Queen? Or is it someone else? One of the other choices? And what did you think of my analysis of the Unicorn? Let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And as always, remember, friendship is magic.